GQ piece a couple of months ago, and some of the quotes that he gave Mike have made the news today. Here they are. Early in the season, there was a game when Kyle got hurt. The coaches were calling for me to go in, but Kyle got up and finished the game out. So I was the second string guy. Then a few weeks later, they decided to put Tim in. I felt like the fans had a lot to do with that. Just because they were chanting his name, there was a big calling for him. No, I didn't have any billboards. That would have been nice. These comments, he has apologized, by the way, on Twitter for them. Will they ultimately help or hurt his chances of coming back with the Denver Broncos?
Oh, help.
Help?
I think there are people dancing in the hallways at the Broncos office saying, let's get on the phone, let's sign him right now. His stock went through the roof yesterday because I believe many in the Broncos organization applauded every negative comment Brady Quinn made about Tim Tebow. I believe that many in this organization, starting with John Elway, I'm sorry.
Wow.
Well, he just, come on.
Wow.
This is the man who said recently, it's Tim's job until camp opens. We heard that last year. What happened when camp opened? He lasted about a day as the starting quarterback, and then he was fourth string. That's what Mike Silver reported. So in this case, I think they liked the attitude that Brady Quinn displayed here, the courage to speak out and say things others in the organization are afraid to say because, as you say, of the public outcry for Tim Tebow and the support by this faction, this cult almost following that he has. So I think they'll say, let's get Brady back in here. Maybe he'd be a good challenge to Tebow. Maybe he is the quarterback of our future. Maybe we underestimated. We should have given him a shot late in the year. That's what I think.
Oh, you're ridiculous, as usual. The fact of the matter is, if there's going to be a successor to Tim Tebow, first of all, it'll arrive relatively quickly because he ain't going to last long. And secondly, it ain't going to be Brady Quinn. Let's be clear about that. Not only that, because of Tim Tebow's popularity in the city of Denver, there is no way that Brady Quinn, this is good for him. John Elway might like it, John Fox might like it, but it ain't going to make them keep him because the reason why because Tim Tebow's their starting quarterback for a popularity contest, and clearly because of these comments, Brady Quinn will never win one in Denver. So as a result, he's out.
But you said Tebow won't last anyway. So the popularity contest doesn't play anymore.
It won't be because of Brady Quinn. That's what I am trying to say. He is not going to have people clamoring for him to be the starting quarterback for the Denver Broncos. He's done. That's why he tried to sit there and modify his quotes to GQ. That's why he had to sit there and do what he had to do. I'm sorry, Yahoo Sports. That's why he had to sit there and say, well, it was out of context and all of this other stuff. Why? Because he knows he's in a world of trouble. That's why. His career...
With whom? Trouble with...
He's not good enough to be the starting quarterback for the team, and he's not valuable enough to insert as Tim Tebow's successor from a popularity standpoint.
Why was
he's going to have to go elsewhere.
Why was it widely reported before the Pittsburgh playoff game that Tim Tebow was one play away from Brady Quinn?
Because Tim Tebow was so awful so often that because a playoff game was on the way, they were willing to play anybody else.
And in fairness to those reports, Skip, I think what was being said was that because Brady Quinn took what later found out was one snap in practice, you can see how sometimes these stories get blown all out of proportion. Supposedly they had one play in, and Brady Quinn was supposed to throw the ball to Tim Tebow on that play.
Yeah, but
because he took a snap, it grew into, Quinn's going to play.
I'm going to stand by my man Ed Werder on this. I trust his reporting. And he's very strong about this.
Yeah, he was.
That Tim Tebow was one series or maybe even one bad play away from Brady Quinn replacing.
That was the report. There were also reporters who were at practice. I know that the CBS crew did the game
on Friday.
They
watched the game and they said,
I'm rolling with Ed Werder, but my point is that it's well deserved. He did deserve to be. Here's a playoff game. If he's sticking up the joint, okay, then you had to get him out of there. He just so happened to not stick up the joint that day. Miracles do happen.
He lit up the joint.
He did.
All right, now, Terrell Suggs was also talked to by Mike Silver for this GQ piece. Here's what he had to say about Tim Tebow. I mean, it's an insult to us players. You know, wins are hard to come by in this league, and if I was Denver's defense, I would feel a certain way. They're not allowed to because they're all on one team. But people are making it look like Tim Tebow is the kid from Foxborough, of course, meaning Brady, which that could be more opposite. It's just crazy that we're calling him a phenomenon when basically he's mediocre. Cam Newton's a way better quarterback than Tim Tebow, and we don't have a Cam Newton phenomenon. I think Stephen A. believes that Terrell Suggs has a point.
Bravo! Bravo! This is what I'm trying to say. This is what I'm trying to say. I mean, T Sizzle, my man.
Yeah, your man. Now he's your man.
Listen, let me tell you something right now, okay? The man is absolutely 1,000% correct. First of all,
Make it a million. Come on.
Okay, fine. 1,000,000% correct. Tim Tebow is not Cam Newton. That's number one. Number two, and more importantly, thankfully, somebody finally pointed out. I mean, have we forgotten Denver's defense? Somebody had the decency to call out. Listen,
how Brady roasted them in Foxborough?
How many games did the Denver Broncos keep Tim Tebow in? A matter of fact, I am here on national television willing to make the argument that part of the reason Denver's defense struggled as the season waned was because Tebow was so awful that he kept them out on the field because it was 3 and out. I mean, he had more 3 and outs. He even had more 3 and outs than the current baseball games. That's just ridiculous, okay? So the fact of the matter is, because he had so many 3 and outs, because he was so inept offensively, because he couldn't throw the ball, act like he was a shortstop instead of a quarterback with his bounce throws and everything else half of the time, the fact is the defense had to come to the rescue, and they had to be out on the field so often that they put their lives in danger having to spend that much time on the field, okay? That is what happened, and T. Suggs, one of the premier defensive players in the game, was kind enough to point out what most of us would sense already knew. Take the floor.
I want to point out, I'm getting back to the Cam Newton phenomenon here. And I want to point out, I love Cam Newton. I said he should be the first pick in that draft. I said I would take him in a heartbeat over Tim Tebow.
You like him?
I'll even take him long-term over Robert Griffin.
You were very hard on him at times this season, though.
Okay, because he did not win with a team that was good enough to win. They should have closed the deal in 3 or 4 fourth quarters, and that had something to do with Cam Newton. Whose team wound up with the better record? Tim Tebow's or Cam Newton's? Just for the record.
Well, that's easy.
Okay. Whose team had more around it? Which quarterback had more around it, more pieces to work with, better receiving core?
See, but now you're,
It's Cam. Who had the better running backs?
But you always say this, Skip, and I love this phrase. You always use it. You say, but I just used my eye test. If you're just doing the eye test and you're watching in a vacuum, forget the defenses, the players around them, you're just watching Cam Newton and you're watching Tim Tebow, you can see why some might say exactly what Suggs is saying.
Okay. All right.
But there was no phenomenon around
Cam was a phenomenon for about 3 games.
Not 3 games. Not nearly as celebrated.
Oh, come on.
No, not
we
nearly
came
as
in here and
celebrated.
led the show with him 3 times.
There was no Newton mania, Skip.
Well, but he was the first pick in the draft. He was expected to be very good, and he was great for 3 games. And then guess what happened? As the season wore on, he started to fade. And you go look, and I'm not going to hit you with too many stats here, but go look at his last 5 or 6 games this year. And look what happened, how the numbers declined. Because people started figuring him out. He wore down.
He got records, though.
He did. He was tremendous, and he deserved all of his accolades.
4,000 yards.
Okay, but phenomenon is when you go from 4th string to winning 7 out of 8 games for 2 people who don't believe in you. That's what you. That's how you define. All it does is win games. Well, you know I'm right about that. That's a phenomenon. That's unheard of. That's Jeremy Lin. That's what we're doing.
I'll be proud of Tim Tebow.
You know what?
Last 5 games.
Cam Newton.
The last 5 games next year, I'll be proud of him.
Cam Newton is beyond phenomenon. He's better than phenomenon. He was expected to be.
He lived up to the hype.
Very respectable comment by you.
Thank you.
We're taking a break. When we come back, before the Spurs went on their 11-game win